All right, so hi there. Thanks for being here. Karen, Michaela. I'm going to start the class with you. All right. Today we're going to see something a little bit interesting, a little bit different. I don't know if you got to see this, this tense, but it's going to be interesting to work it now. It can be difficult if we don't understand very well the tenses that we learned so far, but I believe that we're going to be able to work on this in a good way. Okay, so let's begin. This is what we're going to do. First, actually, let's go directly to this one. I'm not going to talk about the previous one because I remember that it's the future conditional and it was clear. And then it was our, let's say, our debate, right? And we finished over there. So, past perfect. Let me see what you know about this one first. And I'm going to start with you, please, Karen. What do you know or what comes to your mind when you read this tense, the past perfect?
Well, we use this tense when we want to talk about the past, but it's a past that is not specific in the line time or in the I don't know how to say. So it is an event that happened in a period of time. Well, we don't know exactly the time, and this event or this tense continue happened for in the past.
All right, thank you very much, Karen. I believe that we're close, but actually, the description that you're giving me is going to be for the present perfect. Right? That's going to work for the present perfect. This one, the past perfect, actually, it's a new tense. All right. It has similar characteristics in a certain way, Karen, but actually, one of the main difference is that this is going to be used in specific situations. And actually, if we don't use this in a specific situation, it's not possible to use it. All right. But it's even more specific than the simple past, and it's weird because it's always used with another tense or with another time reference. All right, so the elements that you mentioned are good, but we're going to apply that for always a past situation. All right, so it's close to the present perfect, but in this case, this is the past perfect. Okay, so we're going to add to that one, Karen. Thank you very much. I'm going to continue with you, Michaela. So, Michaela, Karen gave us an explanation that it's really interesting and related more perhaps to the present perfect. And an example of the present perfect is I have eaten, right? I have eaten that dish before, right? I have eaten that dish before. That's present perfect. All right, present perfect. Now, this is the past perfect. I don't know if you can tell me an example of how the past perfect could be, Michaela. What do you say? Do you know anything about it?
An example maybe I I I had studied before I connect to the class.
Okay, good. I think we're good. The second verb, how is the second verb conjugated?
Is past perfect, so the second verb is in past too.
Good, exactly. So let's read, oh, sorry, let's repeat the second part before I conjugate the second verb one more time in past, please.
Connected to the class.
Connected to the class, exactly, with ed. Good. Thank you, Michaela. That is correct. That is actually a good example of the past perfect. And if we see, if we analyze, we have two actions, and the past perfect always needs a second reference. If not, it's not possible to use it. If we only say, I had studied, it's incorrect because you need another reference to say, what is the action after that I had studied. That's why in Michaela's case, we have, I had studied before I connected to the class, right? So first, Michaela studied, and then she connected, right? Or better, we can say she joined the class, right? So the past perfect, this is very important. it is always going to be the earlier event. Okay, it's going to be always the first event in the past, and it's the past of the past. All right, it's always more antique, more, or let's say it's older than the simple past. It doesn't matter the order. Okay, it doesn't matter the words you use. It is always going to be the first one. So let's take a look at this. All right, it's very similar to the present perfect in terms of writing, but the meaning is very different. And this is actually very interesting. If you understand this difference, then this is going to be clear for you. All right, it can be a little bit tricky. I'm going to work this with you, please, Karen. Let's read these two sentences, please.
Okay. In June, she traveled to the US. By June, she had traveled to the US.
Great. So what do you think is the difference between number 1 and number 2, Karen? We know that we're talking about past perfect in this case.
I think that the first part of the sentence, the part of the month, I think that is the part that we where we know the difference between the sentence in the simple past and the past perfect, but I don't know why.
Okay, yes, and you're right. This is very, very important. And actually, this is connected to the tense that we use here. So you say, in June, she traveled. By June, she had traveled. So remember that, and Karen, you're going to then explain this one. When you use the simple past, number 1, right, you talk about definite time expressions in which that action happened. So when did she travel? Or when did she travel to the US? In June, right? So it happened in June. But in the second case, actually, if I ask you this one, Karen, in number 2, this action happened in June or not? What do you say? Did this action happen in June, or when did it happen in number 2?
It's, well, the time is not exactly the month June. Maybe I don't know, maybe 1 month before or 2, we don't know, but by the time she had traveled.
Exactly, it's good. It's good. Yes, what you know, actually, it's correct. You have to guide yourself by those thoughts because they are correct. By June means before June. And the best way to say that something happened before another event in the past, because June now it's past, it's the past perfect, right? So before June, it's very similar to the example that Michaela gave us, right? Before I connected, comma, I had studied. By June, she had traveled to the US, right? So first, she had traveled, and second, well, it was June, right? So it means that it is before. And as you said, we don't know if it was 1 month before, 2 months before, but actually it's before June. And many of the times it's going to be not that long from June. So it's very actually going to be the month before in most of the cases. All right. If not, we can say by April or by February, right? It means that it happened before, and very likely it was the previous month. All right. So good. That's a very actually good appreciation on this one, Karen. In and by mark the difference, but these tenses give the extra thing. This is definite. Something happens or happened in this time, and this action happened before another time in the past. Okay, so that is the difference between those two. One is the simple past, a specific action in the past, and the other one is the past perfect, an action that happened before another event or another date in the past. And in number 2, as you can see, we don't have another sentence. We only have a time reference. okay? But it has to talk about something before. All right, so that's the continuation of this introduction. Now we're going to read this element, and it is going to be with you, please, Micaela.
Okay, introduction. Use the past perfect to talk about a past event that happened before another past event. It means that the past perfect will always be the earlier event in the past.
Thank you very much. Just remember, please, this little word here, Micaela, it's going to be like event or event. Let's repeat that one, please. Event.
Event.
Event, exactly. Thank you.
Okay.
Good. So one more time, right? It is always the earlier event, the past event, the first event. All right? And it happened before another past event. It will always be the earlier or the first action that happened in the past. Okay, always. It doesn't matter if it's at the end of your sentence and you have all simple past sentences and you have one past perfect sentence. That is the first event. All right, that's always going to be the first event. And this is the structure. And one more time, it's similar to the present perfect, but instead of have or has, you only use had plus the past participle, right? For example, I had finished my homework before you called me, right? She had not, I don't know, taken the test by the time, right, the professor asked for the requirements. And with questions, right? What had you done? What had you done before the class was over, right? So what is the action that you did, that you performed, that you had done before this other action happened? Okay, so one more time, if you analyze all those examples, it is always the earlier event. It is always the first event, and it's only with had or had not. Had or had not, all right? You have something similar, of course, when you use the past continuous, but the difference is that the past continuous is only context. But this past perfect is a definite action that happened before the other action, okay? It's not happening anymore. It finished before the other event in the past, okay? But remember that the past continuous continues after the second event in the past, right? It's a possibility, but it can continue. This one, no, it happened before and it finished before. All right. So with that in mind, actually, let's start working in some of these examples, please. I'm not going to give you more elements. Here we need something important, that it's the expressions that you can use, Karen and Micaela. But try to remember, please, one of them is the one that Micaela used, before plus an example in simple past, right? I had done that before complete example in simple past, all right? Or you can use time reference, right? By June, comma, what's something that you had done by June? By October this year, what you had done? I had finished my, I don't know, my career. I had graduated. It means that it happened before October. All right, so let's try to use those ones, all right, the ones that you know, and then I am going to show you like more elements that you can take into account. But let's do it. As always, we are going to write this example here. Of course, you're going to let me know if you have any questions, but the idea is to get the first approach, and I'm going to give you the instruction now, all right? Good. There you go. So, using these formulas, you're only going to give me 3 examples, one in affirmative, one negative, and one question. And remember that it has to be something related to another event or to another date in the past. Okay, something that you had done before someone else did something, something that you had not done by a certain date, or what had someone else done by a certain date or before another person did another action. All right, so let me know, please, if you have any questions before working on this first approach, girls. No? All right. Let's start, please. We're going to have 4 minutes to write these 3 examples, please. Let's do it. Okay, just in case, remember that you have to use the past participle of the verb, right? I had gone, I have seen, I had taken, I have given, I have started, okay? Always, if it's affirmative, negative, or question, it's always going to be the past participle, and it's always going to be with had. Okay, I had, she had, we had, they had, always had. All right, so we are on the 4th minute. I'm going to take a look at what you're doing. And again, if you're finishing some ideas, I'm going to help you out. But remember, this is the first approach. All right, you haven't seen all the structure yet, because all the structure needs a second part. And I already told you in just by speaking, but of course I have to show you that with well, with real things and with concrete words. So I'm going to start with you, please, Karen. Let's read your 3 ideas, please.
Okay, she had played soccer before her brother played too. By September, they had moved to their new apartment. This apartment. Then, where had you gone before you went to Anna's house?
Thank you, Karen. So I'm going to give you feedback on number 6. Yes, actually, both can be correct, but the meaning is different, right? Apartment is like a house, not a house, right? But it's a construction in which you live. And department is a section in your work. Okay, so you can work or you can move to a different section. For example, you can go to the marketing department. Okay, you can go to the financial department. You can go to the human resources department, right? But if you mean the place in which you live, it has to be apartment or flat. All right, that over there. I believe that they are good. Just one question. If number 5, I ask you this, kind. What action happened and finished first, and what action happened and finished second in number 5?
The first one, she had played soccer, start first and finish, and then the other.
Exactly. Here, these are both are definite actions, okay? And that's the difference if you analyze Karen with the past continuous and the simple past. Right? When you say, for example, she was playing soccer when her brother played, right? Of course, that's not going to make sense because it's like played is not interrupting the other action, right? Here you're telling me, first, she played soccer, she finished playing soccer, before what? Her brother did the same. So after she played soccer, he did. All right, so she first and he second. Okay, so that's good. That is correct. And here by September, it means before September, they have moved to their new, and I believe here by using also the verb, and you're talking about they, it can be apartment, right? Their new apartment. And where had you gone before you went to Anna's house? Great. So first, this person went to one place. So now that he went there, he's going in the past, right, to another place. That is going to be Anna's house. So good. I believe that the logic is working great, Karen. I don't know if you have any questions about these just specifications that I gave you.
No, teacher.
Okay, great. Thank you. Michaela, let's continue with you, please. Let's read your ideas.
Okay, Maria had finished the report before the deadline. By March, Jose and I had not traveled yet. What have you done with the documents before she asked for them?
Thank you very much, Michaela. Now here, they are trying to correct that one, right? Why? Because here you don't have a very specific past event, right? We don't know if actually this is going to be a real past or it's very, very recent. That's why here they want to use just, for example, the simple past. Maria finished the report before the deadline because it is clear, right? Mainly we're going to use this when it's not clear, but actually it's not incorrect, okay? It is good. This is just a recommendation that Grammarly is giving you because you don't need to use the past perfect if the context makes clear what happened first and what happened second, all right? And actually that's the idea. The past perfect is just a way, a formal way to say what is the first action in the past. But if your organization is good, you don't need to use past perfect. You can simply use simple past. If you say, first, I did this, and second, I did that, of course, there you don't need the past perfect, right? Because it's clear what is first, because you are saying that it's first, and you're saying that it's second. Also with before, in your examples, right? In all your examples with before, you can omit the use of the past perfect. But if you want to be very formal and you would want to put emphasis on the idea that it happened first and it has to be very clear, then the best option is to use the past perfect. Okay, so in very formal or formal situations, And when the organization is not clear, the past perfect is the best option. But if you have a sequence of actions, then you can use only simple past. All right, so good. I have, I think, no more observations. Actually, this is just a comment. March had not traveled yet. What had you done with the documents before she asked for them? Good. I believe that it's good. I don't know if you have any questions about that extra comment, Micaela.
I don't have questions. Thank you so much, teacher.
No, thank you, Micaela. Good. And Nazarena, let's continue with you, please. Let's read your ideas.
Okay, teacher. The first one, I had taken negotiation classes in September to have more skills in my career. Second one, Julia hadn't realized that the yoga course begins in December and she already bought a mat. 3, had you finished the essay for our English classes today?
All right, thank you, Nazarena. I have only 2 little details in number 1 and number 3. Number 2 is working very, I think all of them are correct, but there's a better way to work with them, all right? In number 1, when you say I had taken negotiation classes in September to have more skills in my career, actually here we don't need to use the past perfect because there is not another event, okay? We only use the past perfect when there's another past event to compare the past perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
and to show that the past perfect happened first. But if you realize in number 1, you're only saying in September that it happened there. So actually there, the best option it is going to be took. Okay, I took negotiation classes in September to have more skills in my career. Now, how can you use had taken? You can change this. Instead of in, you can say by. Okay, and when you say by September, it means that this happened before September. All right, and that's a possible way in which you can use had taken. All right, so one more time, you always need another past reference to say that the past perfect happened before another past event. It can be a date or it can be an action. Okay, and it's better if it's an action. Also in number 3 in Nazarena, why? Because when you say, had you finished the essay for our English classes today? It means that you, actually this is going to be better with the present perfect. Okay, have you finished the essay for our English classes today? And you're talking about today. But remember that the past perfect, it's kind of far away from today. And it's always going to be mentioned before something. So you can say, and we don't know if today is actually happening, if the English classes started already, or the English class is going to start later on. Okay, you only use the past perfect if the English classes already happened. So you can say, had you finished the essay for the English classes that you had or that we had? Okay, so had you finished before the English class started? Okay, so first you finished, is that correct? And then the English class started. Okay, so you always need 2 past events. So here again, it would be, had you finished the essay before, you can say, all right, as your partners were doing, before our English classes started. And this is about past, okay? Past, 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 past.
Oh,
And
okay.
here, I think it's good. This is the last one. It says, Julia hadn't realized that the yoga course begins in December and she already bought the mat. So this is good because you have another event in the past. You're only using and, but interestingly, this is connecting the ideas in a good way. And this is correct because you have another event in the past and this person did something. All right. So that's the only thing, Nazarena. I don't know if you have any questions about those details.
It's clear, teacher. Thank you so much.
All right. No, thank you, Nazarena. Good. So let's continue. Again, that is the introduction. I wanted to see how you were able to deal with this tense. But of course, I'm going to explain this one more time. And actually, I'm going to complement the idea. So once again, the past perfect is the past of the past. It means that to use the past perfect, you have to use another past event. If not, it's not necessary to use the past perfect. Simply use the simple past, right? Instead of saying, I had bought that yesterday, no need. You simply say, I bought that yesterday. But you can say, I had bought that before you called me yesterday. So it means that you did an action before another action happened. And that's a good reason to use the past perfect. All right. And one more time, if you don't have a past event, if you're not making clear that this is before something else, don't use the past perfect. All right. Only when you have past events that are having an interaction. Okay, but let's take a look at more. And actually, this is the most important part. With this, we're going to work a lot of examples, but you're going to try to answer some questions that I'm going to ask you. All right. As you can see, you can use 4 main structures. You can use by with simple past, when with simple past, before with simple past, and after. This is the only one that is a little bit different, with past perfect after this word. In all of the previous ones, the past perfect is before this word. All right, and take a look at this. It says, for example, by the time, okay, by the time, I'm going to use this example. By the time, I don't know, Luis joined the class, comma, Karen had already joined. Okay, so by the time Luis joined the class, so after by the time, use simple past. And after that, you use past perfect. Or you can use first past perfect and then by the time. Okay, and it's going to be like this. Luis had joined, right? By the time Karen had already connected or already connected directly over there. Okay, so let's paraphrase it one more time because I'm going to make that clear here. So by the time Karen joined, or Luis, let's change that one. Had already, and let's use another verb to change a little bit. Started. Okay, so that is the example. After by the time, you have to use the simple past, right? And then you have the past perfect. And as with any clause, you can do this with inversion, right? So what can you do? You can say this. Karen had already started the presentation, and I made a mistake when I was speaking, by the time Luis joined the class. Okay, both are correct. So as you can see, the past perfect is going to be before by the time, and by the time is followed by simple past, or you start with by the time and simple past, and then you have the past perfect. It happens the same with all these structures, and it's the same, okay? It's exactly the same. These are just variations then. So it means instead of by the time, you can say what? When, right? It's as simple as that. When Luis joined the class, that happened, or that had happened, and here, when. Okay, easy. That's it. And it's exactly the same one more time. Let's copy and paste the two directly. Instead of when, before. Right? And here, before. And the last one, it's the only one that it's different, remember? It's with after, right? Why? Because with after, it is going to be like this. Luis joined the class after Karen had already started the presentation. So after is going to be there in the middle, all right? And Luis, no, this is not connected to anything. And here, the same, after Karen, right? After Karen had already started the presentation, comma, Luis joined the class. Okay, so it's the only one that, as you can see, is different. Because after after the word after, you place the past perfect. But in the other cases, it's different. After the word, you place the simple past. By the time, simple past. When, simple past. Before, simple past. And with a comma, you use the past perfect, or you use the past perfect before that a word and the simple past idea. All right, so those are the 4 ways that you have to use this. And of course, with by the time, you have these extra options that you're going to read here. So actually, let's read this together. And I'm going to ask you again some questions. Let's read this with you, please, Lucia, and you're going to read only the column by, please, by simple past.
All right, Professor. Could you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well, Lucia.
Okay. Yeah, Professor, first I have a question that is,
Yes.
this is like a rule with by, when, before, that always when we use that words are like the second idea is like the simple past.
When you are working with this tense, yes. You have options, as you can see here, Lucia, with by. You don't need to use simple past. You can use expressions like this, by 1990, or by the middle of that year. All right, so past expressions, things that refer to the past. All right, or before something started. But if you want to use this tense, Lucia, that is the past perfect, you have to use the simple past with these rules. Why? Because if you don't, actually, it's not going to be incorrect, but it's not going to be necessary then to use the past perfect. To use the past perfect, you always need another time reference in the past. And the time reference in the past, it's always going to be the simple past with these introductions, with by, when, before, or after. All right, so yes, in the case you want to use this tense, you have to follow these formulas.
And Professor, I had another question. For example, with the case of already, with already, I remember that always, or the most of the time we use with the perfect tenses, right? But I don't know if we can use in simple past also.
Perhaps, I don't know with simple past, but you can use with the past perfect as well. But you can use it in any tense, all right? For example, you can say, yes, it can be possible. You can say, for example, I already did it. But if you say, I've already done it, it's better. But one more time, if you say in simple past, it's also correct. And here you can use it. And the most common, it's not going to be with the simple past. It is going to be with the past perfect. For example, here you can say, right, by the time I finished the presentation, comma, Lucia had already started with her project. All right. So in the perfect tenses, already, yet, are the best words, but there's no prohibition if you want to use those words with simple tenses at the simple past. All right, but it's not the best option, perhaps.
All right, thank you, Professor.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Lucia. Yes, let's read it, please. By and simple past.
By simple past. By the time someone did something or something happened, plus past perfect. By 1990, plus past perfect. By the middle of that year, plus past perfect.
Great. Thank you very much, Lucia. So one more time. As we always need a past event to use the past perfect, you need to give a reference, right? So it can be, by 1990, I had finished school. By 1990, the war had already started. By 1990, she had graduated from that university. Okay, so you're going to mention things that happened before 1990. By the middle of that year, right, that's why you don't say this year, because it can be present perfect, or it cannot be clear. All right, so it's better if you say, by the middle of that year, something happened or something had happened, to make it clear. Okay, so you have three options: by the time with simple past, by a year, and by with a time past expression. Let's continue with when. This is very simple. This is going to be for you, please, Nazarena. Let's read when simple past.
Okay. When simple past, when someone did something, plus past perfect. When something happened, plus past perfect.
Thank you, Nazarena. The structure is clear, right? When simple past, past perfect. All right, when someone did something or when something happened. Okay, both are clear. The next one is for you, please, Micaela. Before and simple past.
Before simple past, before someone did something, plus perfect, past perfect. Before something happened, plus past perfect.
Thank you very much. As you can see, it's the same. And one more time, by the time, past perfect is the same as when, past perfect, and before, past perfect. Both of them, or sorry, the three of them work with simple past, a comma, and past perfect. Or remember, it can be the opposite. Past perfect, when, or by the time, or before, and simple past, as in the examples that I wrote. All right. And the last one is for you, please, Karen. After with past perfect.
Okay, after someone had done something, plus past simple. After something had happened, plus past simple.
Great. Thank you very much, Karen. So we can see that the only exception is after, right? Because after the word after, we don't use the simple past, we use the past perfect, and then we use the simple past or the past simple. One more time. After someone had done something, comma, simple past. After something had happened, comma, simple past, or past simple again. All right, so again, if you analyze, this is summarized in the examples that I wrote here for you. If you understand again these examples and how they are, and as you can see here, I'm using already with the past perfect. All right, Karen had already started the presentation. So it's always better with perfect tenses. Now, let me ask you some questions. They are going to be very simple, but actually, I'm not going to be the one asking the questions to all of you. I'm just going to ask a couple of questions to one of you, and that person is going to ask the questions to another person. All right? And you're going to use this structure. The first one, it is going to be for you, please, Karen. How can you answer to this question? The first question is, what are two things that you had done? Okay, what are two things that you had done before you finished school? What are two things that you had done before you finished the school?
I had come. No, I had traveled to Cochabamba and I had gone to the university.
Good. And that's before you finish school, right? Those actions finished before you finish school, right? So the second one can be different. How could it be the second
one? I had I don't know, I had played tennis.
Correct. Now let's give one more time the answer, and this time you're going to use the time reference, okay? Because it is correct. So one more time, what are two things that you had done before you finished school? So answer one more time with the same options, but add the time reference in the past also.
Okay. Before I finished the school, I had gone to Cochabamba and I had played tennis.
Exactly. Very good. That's correct, Karen. So the same. You can change the question a little bit. Of course, that's up to you, Karen. You can look for different expressions and different moments of time. But now you are going to ask one question like that. Only one it's going to be to Micaela, please, and Karen. Okay, and Micaela, this is for you then. Let's listen to Karen's question, please. So let's do it, please, Karen.
Okay. 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 What have you done by I can say, I don't know, 2 years ago, maybe.
It's going to be a little bit weird. You can say directly, perhaps, the year, the year. So you can say, what have you done, or sorry, had you done by, and 2 years ago, it's 2020, right? So you say directly 2020. It's going to be better.
Okay. What had you done by 2020?
Well, I had read a lot before I had take some place.
All right, one more time, please. You said played a year. One more time, please, Michael. It was a little bit because there's a noise. It was not possible for me to understand.
Okay, sorry. I had read a lot before I take some place. It's okay, or I need to mention 2020.
Yes, in this case, as you have a specific question, it's better if you only play along with that question. All right, so you have one directly refer to the 2020 then, Michael.
Okay. By 2020, I had read a lot.
Good. And just the verb, right? What is the verb that you're using? I believe that it's read, right? And how do you conjugate the verb?
In past is read, I think.
If you're talking about reading, right? Are you talking about reading, right? Like reading
Yes.
books and anything. So no, the is a red. Okay, red, like the color red.
Oh,
Okay, I had read. So one more time, please. The last one, Michaela, with that correction.
Okay. By 2020, I had read a lot.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Michaela. And yes, and there, of course, a good option. It's not bad, but you can try to give more specific details to make it more special, right? To mention. So you can say, I had read, I don't know, right? This many books or this specific book, right? And I fell in love with it. But again, you can play with the words and the ideas. But Michaela, now it's your turn, please. You're going to ask one question to Nazarena. It has to be one question using the past perfect and using one of these expressions to ask the very specific time reference in the past.
Okay. What had you done before joining to the class?
All right, good. So Nazarena, that's for you. If it's clear, you can answer back. If not, also you can, well, ask for clarifications.
Okay, again, teacher?
Yes. Now, but let's try to ask. How did you ask Michaela to repeat the question?
Oh, what have you done before joining to the class?
I with which one I have to respond, teacher?
No, actually, that's only one question, all right? But
Okay.
it's perhaps the subject is not that clear in that one, Michaela, but it's a good question. It's what had you done before you joined the class. It means this class, right? But as the
Okay.
starting of the class happened, it's past again, right? It's still today, but it's clear that it's past even from today. Okay, so how can you answer that question, Nazarena? One more time. What have you done before you joined the class?
Before I joined the class, I had the dinner.
Okay, good, close. But if you only say had the dinner, that's only past. How do you say I had dinner in past perfect?
I had eaten the dinner, or I had.
I had. Exactly.
I had the dinner. Okay.
Correct. Good. That's correct. It sounds weird, right? But it is the correct way. Or if you want to avoid that one, you can do what you did, Nazarena, which is good. You can say eaten, right? And remember, don't say the dinner, only dinner. Okay. I had dinner before I joined the class. All right. Let's repeat that one, please, Nazarena.
Okay. Before I joined to the class, I had dinner.
Very good. And only one detail, remember, to say join, you don't say to the class directly, join the class. Okay. And in past, joined the class. Exactly.
In the past, right?
In the past, exactly. Joined the class.
Joined the class. Yep. Okay.
Good. Great. Now the same for you, please, Nazarena. Ask one question in that with that type. It means you have to use past perfect, and you have to use one of these expressions by the time, when, before, or after. And that question is going to be for Lucia. So what question can you ask, Nazarena?
Okay. Okay. Had you ever gone to a concert of your favorite artist?
Good. But one thing is missing, Nazarena, because if not, the best option wouldn't be the past perfect. It could be in present perfect, right? Have you ever gone? And the questions with have you ever, actually, it's only for the present perfect. Okay. Have you ever gone, right? Or have you ever done something? That's only with the present perfect. But with the past perfect, this is the past perfect, we cannot use ever, because that's any time in your life. You have to use a specific time in the past. So you can say, have you gone, I'm going to say something, have you gone to a concert before you were, I don't know, 20 years old, or by 2019, or when you were at school, or before you graduated from school, right? So you need to give any time reference in the past to talk about the past perfect. Okay, so how can you reformulate your question, Nazarena?
Okay, teacher. Had you gone to a concert before finished the school?
Good. Before you finished the school, right? That's correct.
Finished the school.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Nazarena. So that's for you, Lucia. How can you answer that
one? Professor, for this answer, for that kind of answer, normally we have to reply like with the same question, in this case with before, or also I can reply with the other, by the time, or when, or after.
Yes, usually you can keep that one, right? But as the context is not going to change if you change the word, you can also change, and you can use a different one if it doesn't affect. And usually it's not going to affect the answer, so you can do it. And remember, this is a yes/no question, so you can answer this very briefly with yes and then subject auxiliary, but then you can give clarification if you want, and then you can use this conjugation. So let's see, how do you answer this one, Lucia?
Yes, before, I forgot the question, but before I finish school, finish the school, I had gone to the concert with my friends.
Good. And if you say to the concert, it's a specific concert, but perhaps Nazarena doesn't know what
Of my
concert you're
favorite
talking
artist.
about. Good, exactly. I had gone to my favorite artist concert right before I finished school. Correct. And if you say when I finished school or by the time I finished the school, it is still going to be correct because as you're using the past perfect, we know that that's the first action and the other one is the second action, right? So it is correct, Lucia. Good. And now actually you're going to ask me a question, please, Lucia. What question can you ask me using the past perfect and any of these expressions?
Did you hear? Also, I have a question.
Yes.
For example, when we use that for questions, we can use like, I mean, we can use like before, after, when, or by the time to like introduce the question and after like the question more short. It's possible or always like with all the structure?
No, it is possible. First, you have the clarification of time, right? So before you finish the school, comma, what had you done, right? So it is possible. It's going to be a little bit more formal and a little bit more like for writing, perhaps, because in a speaking question, it's better to include everything in the question without any pauses. But yes, perhaps for in formality or in writing, it is an option and it's valid, Lucy. It's something that you can do.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. When you finish the school, have you studied the next year or you did another activity?
Good. Now that one could be correct, but remember the thing with that question, Lucia, is that now we need to practice with the past perfect, right? So if you say the next year, you're talking about an event that is happening after I finish school. But remember that the past perfect is not used for after a past event, it's only used before a past event. Right?
Okay.
So you can say, you can ask for many things, but that happened before the event after one. It means before I finished school. So how could it be reformulating that question?
Actually, when you finish the school, have you done a volunteering?
Okay, yes, if that's including before that one, it's correct. But also remember, you're not going to use have, you have to use had, right? If you want to clarify that it's the past of that past. Okay, so yes, another one I can say, no, I hadn't. I hadn't done or write any volunteer before I finished the school. All right. And again, anything that is included before the action of finishing the school, it's going to be included in the question. So that would be my answer, Lucia. All right. I don't know if you have any more questions about those little details.
No, teacher. And I don't know if you advance with the girls before, like the difference between the past perfect or the present perfect, or is something that we are going to analyze in the future.
Actually, I already mentioned, but it's as clear as this one, Lucia. The past perfect is very different from the present perfect. Why? The present perfect has possible contact with the present. The present perfect is indefinite. And remember what with the present perfect, you don't mention when it happened, right? You don't have to mention. If you mention when it happened, it's incorrect. Look at this, just by saying by the time you did, when you finished, before you finished, after you had done, you are mentioning when it happened. So that's one of the biggest differences. With the past perfect, you need a past time reference. You need another past event. If you don't have another past event, you cannot use the past perfect. All right. But with the present perfect, actually, you don't have to use another past event because if you do, it's going to be incorrect. Okay, so they are the opposite. You cannot do one thing with the one or with the other one. The past perfect is the past of the past. Okay, so it's never going to be in connection with the present, even though the question can be close, like Micaela's question, right? What had you done before you joined the class? It's a very, very near past, but it's still past. Okay, it's something that person had done before that person did something else, that is joining the class, but it already finished. Both actions already finished. All right, so that's another difference. The past, the past perfect is the past of the past, is a finished action before another finished action. But the present perfect is an indefinite past action that can continue into the present and even into the future. And again, the biggest difference is that with the past perfect, you have to use always 100% of the time another past time reference to understand what happened first. So the past perfect is always the first action in the past, and the other action in the past is always the second action in the past. But you cannot do that with the present perfect, because you cannot use another past action. If you do, it is incorrect. You can only do that with the simple past, all right? Because it's definite, and that's it, all right? And the last one, just Lucia, to finish, is that with the past perfect, you use this in formal situations, okay? Formal situations, and when the connection is not clear. If it's clear, you don't need to use the past perfect. You can simply use the simple past. And the example that I give to your partners, you can say, first, I traveled to Europe. Second, I went to Asia. Okay, it's clear, so I don't need past perfect. But if it's not clear, use past perfect. And you can say, I had traveled to Europe before I went to Asia. All right, or you can simply say that with periods. I had traveled to Europe, period, then I traveled to Asia. All right, and again, the words can make it clear, but you decide if it's going to be clear or not. But those are the main differences, and as you can see, Lucia, are very big differences. So if you use one or the other one, it is going to be incorrect in the situation and according to your context. All right, I don't know if you have questions about that. Let me know, please. Any of you or you, Lucia?
Yeah, now it's clear, Professor. Thank you. But just, I was thinking according the before units that we learned, for example, with past continuous, also we have like the same idea that it's like an idea before the simple past, or like with the simple past we interrupt something. So which is more past? I know it sounds weird, but for example, if I have to use or two options between the past continuous and the past perfect, in which moments it's better or is proper the use of each tense?
Good. Yes, and that's a good question. Again, always the earlier event is always going to be the past perfect. Okay, there's not a thing that it's earlier than the past perfect. Okay, it's always going to be the first. If you have past perfect, if you have simple past, if you have any past, the past perfect is always the first event. It's always the older and the antique event. All right. And when to choose and how to choose, I think I mentioned that one very briefly. Remember that the past continuous is continuous. It's not finished. So when you say, for example, I was playing or I was walking on the street when I saw my friend, right? Then I continued walking. So it's not finished. The action is not finished, right? We don't know when it started. We don't know when it is going to finish. The past continues. But the past perfect is a finished action. It finished before the other action that you are talking about. All right. So when you say, I had called you before you came, right? It's not going to be the same as I was calling you when you came. All right. So I was doing that action and I was still in the process of doing that action, and you came and you interrupt me. But here, there's no interruption. It's just one thing happened and the other thing happened afterwards. Okay, and both actions are finished. The past perfect and the simple past are both finished, and they are like a sequence. All right, I don't know if that helps, Lucia.
Yeah, now, yeah. Thank you, Professor.
Good. No, you're welcome. There you go. So please, to finish today, and I believe that that information is helpful for everybody, you let me know if you have more questions. If not, please, we're going to work with 4 examples. All right. And also, just to mention one more time, Lucia, you can use that idea of mentioning before the time event, but it's better more than in questions to use it with statements. Okay, for example, when you arrived, comma, I had already finished that. So it doesn't matter the order, the past perfect is always going to be the first event. Okay, so 4 examples, please, Karen, Micaela, Nazarena, and Lucia. One with by, one with when, one with before, and one with after. And they have to be different examples. All right, it means you have to use different verbs to show me that you know, right, the past participle of that verb, and different scenarios or different circumstances to use this one. But remember, you always need the 2 parts, right? You need the past event in the simple past, and you need the earlier past event in the past perfect. All right, so that's the idea, girls. If you have questions, let me know. If not, please, let's have 5 minutes to work on this one. Then I give you my corrections or recommendations, and we finish with some other details. Let's work on that, please. 5 minutes to work on the 4 examples, 1 per expression, please. Okay, we have 2 more minutes, please. Let's finish. Remember, for examples, one with each option that you have: by, when, before. Be careful with after. Remember that with after, the order is different. All right, just be careful with that. And just one detail, remember that you can also use negative ideas if you want. Okay, hadn't, didn't, it's up to you. All right, so be finishing, please. It's time already. And we're going to take a look at what you got to. Again, actually, if you got this, you got everything. I'm going to show you some extra details afterwards. As Lucia was mentioning, we have interesting words for perfect tenses, right? Already, yet, and never. All right, those are always good options to use as you're using perfect tenses. And yes, you can use this with simple past again, right? I already did it. But if you say I've already done it, it's always the best option in grammar. All right, already, yet, never. Those are like the predilects for perfect tenses. So let's take a look at your examples. And one more time, you can use my examples here as illustration. You know, they are the same example, right? But to see the order, look where I'm using the simple past. Look where I am using the past perfect. All right, and it's always a good idea to pay attention to those details. Now, I'm taking a look at your ideas. I'm going to start with you, please, Michaela. Let's read your examples, please.
Okay, by 2019, I had finished my career with honors. And when she had got her new job, the pandemic started. Laura had eaten her breakfast before her boss asked for her. They already learned the lesson after the class finished.
Thank you very much here, Michaela. So let's take a look. I have one observation or a couple, perhaps. Remember that we cannot use the past perfect with when, because the information is going to be confusing. Remember that the past perfect is the previous action. So when you say when she had got, right, and then you say the pandemic started, the order is incorrect. All right, when is with simple past, comma, then you need the past perfect. If not, actually, it is going to be incorrect because the information is going to be confusing and contrary. All right, so it has to be the opposite. It has to be when she got her job, comma, the pandemic had started. It means that first the pandemic started, and second, she got the job. All right, but if you want to say the opposite, then you need to change the sentences, and you need to say, when the pandemic started, comma, she had already gotten her new job. All right, so that's the first one. So here I'm going to just do this one. I'm going to eliminate that one, and I'm going to use past perfect over here. All right, but again, if you want to use or sorry, if you want to change the ideas, you need to change the order, and one more time you need to change the tenses. Okay, but that will be a correction. And then in this one, we're going to analyze something. Here, you are only using the present, the simple past, sorry. And it's correct, right? As I told you, if the idea is clear, you don't need to use past perfect. But the idea here is practicing the past perfect. All right. So how would you add here the past perfect, Michael? In number 4, you're not using the tense. Where do you have to use it with after? I am showing you my example here, Michaela. If you read, this is how you have to use the past perfect with after. You use first the simple past, then after, and then you use the past perfect. Okay, and remember that actually if you're going to use already, if you want to use it with the simple past, it has to be alone. Why? Because if you use already with the simple past and then you have the past perfect, it's also going to be confusing because already means like that idea of, yes, it happened. Okay, it already happened. So in your case, one more time, first you need a simple past. They learned the lesson, only that one, after the class had finished. All right, that's the way in which we are going to use. And again, in the way you did it is good because after makes clear which one is first and which one is second. But just to practice the correct use, and this is the more formal use of using the past perfect and the past tenses, Michaela. So just to practice, please, we are going to read one more time number 2 and number 4, please, Michaela.
Okay, when she got her new job, the pandemic had started, and they learned the lesson after the class finished.
And one more time, please, I think that it's not updated because you were not reading, I think, these prepositions. Remember that in number 2 is the pandemic had started, and then it says after the class had finished. Okay, so one more time, please, only the last part here. Let's read the pandemic had started.
The pandemic had started,
And here, yes,
after the class had finished.
correct. If not, again, it's going to still be correct. Number 4, it's going to be correct, but it's not going to be the more formal way. And number 2, without that change, it will be a little bit incorrect. I don't know if you have questions, Michaela. Let me know, please.
Sorry, can you repeat the last part?
Yes, no, I just want to know if you have any questions or doubts.
It's clear to me, teacher. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going now with you, Nazarena. I believe that this is yours. So let's read your 4 ideas, please.
Okay, teacher. When my brother took the grade test, he had finished the university classes. Before the finance area finished the budget, he had had the strategies to improve the incomes of the company for the next year. After she had completed the courses, she began her agency marketing. By the time my mom called me, I had talked with the whole family.
Good, thank you very much, Nazarena. Great. Here, only one thing, and it's not because of the conjugation, it's only the verb. When you say strategies, and when you say we had, but what do you mean when you say to have a strategy? Because actually that's something that you do actively. What other verbs can you think in this case, Nazarena, besides the verb have?
Making.
Okay, we can say, or you can say we had worked on the strategies, right? That's one option actually, worked on. We had prepared right? The strategies. We had built the strategies, right? Because when you say had, it's going to be more imprecise. All right, so let's try to change this to perhaps we have worked on the strategies, or as an option, you can say that you had prepared.
Okay.
All right, the strategies to improve the income, this in general. All right, it's going to be only income, even though you're talking about like in a general way about all the income that you receive from many places, you're only going to say the income. All right, and here remember it's going to be directly next year. All right, to improve the income of the company. Here you can say for the next year or for next year or by the next year. One of those is going to be better. So for or by next year. All right, or optionally you can say that one. That would be it in Nazarena. The other ones, I believe they are working very good. Have completed the courses. She began her agency marketing, called me. I have talked with the whole family. That's it. I don't know if you have any questions about those details, Nazarena.
It's fine, teacher. Thank you. Also can be made. We had made the strategies, or is not used made?
To make the strategies, I believe that is not going to be the best option. You can work on that. You can prepare, you can create, build, organize strategies, produce strategies. Those are better options.
Okay.
To make strategies, I believe that is not going to be that good of an option, at least in this case, Nazaré.
Okay, thank you.
All right, good. Now you're welcome. Lucia, let's continue with you, please.
All right. By the time Santiago exposed his designs, he had studied arts at the university. When she finished her essay, she had already told us about her story. Before you played piano, you had already taught music classes. Camilo did not leave the airport after he had found his luggage.
Thank you very much, Lucia. I think they're really interesting, and I believe that they are good. I don't know about that one. I'm going to check. Just one thing that you forgot in the last ones. Remember that you need a comma anytime you use when, before, and at the beginning, right? So it's going to be when she finished her essay, right? Comma. She had already told us about her story. Good. Before you played piano, comma, you had already taught music classes, all right, or pop music could be in general good. And Camilo did not leave the airport after he had found his luggage, all right. And remember that in this case, first he had not found his luggage, and after he did not leave the airport, right? So remember that the consequence is not going to be very related. Just remember that with after, the first action is after the word after, and the second action is in the second part. But they are not going to work very much, or in many cases, as the consequence. All right, but I believe that it's working good. That's my only observation over there. Told us her story, about her story. Yes, it's good if you say you tell something about something, or you can directly, as you are not using an object, a specific object over there, you can avoid that preposition because it can be unnecessary, but it's not incorrect. You can say directly, she had already told us her story, okay, without the preposition about. It will be perhaps avoiding that word. But that's it, Lucia. I don't know if you have any questions about those little commas or the comments that I made.
No, it's clear. Thank you, Professor. Just because they are fanboys, just because are when and before that we use the commas, right?
Exactly. And these are going to be like, you call it subordinating conjunctions: when, before, after, because, right? And remember, when you have those words, when they are in the middle, no comma, but when they are at the beginning and the second clause is in the afterwards, you need a comma, just because of that.
All right. Thank you, Professor.
No, thank you very much. And Karin, let's finish up with you, please.
Okay, by the prehistoric era, the Earth had good levels of oxygen. When Mario called Anna, she had left her house. They had gone to the concert before it started raining. After he had watched the movie, his mother came home.
Okay, thank you, Karen. Good. I believe that all of them are working good. We have the right verbs for those expressions. You're using the commas when they are at the beginning, and you are not using them when they are in the middle, after with the past perfect, and then the simple past. And it's good. All right. I don't know if you have any questions because I have no observations in this case, Karen. What do you say? Any questions? Because with this, we're kind of finishing the lesson.
Teacher, it's not a question about the lesson, it's a question in general about all the dances that we have um we have seen or we have been seen. For example, this is I don't know the name of the tense that we use, have plus been plus ing.
Okay. That one more time, please. Have plus been
I
plus
have
another verb with
been, I don't know,
ing.
I have been playing maybe.
Good. So actually, all of the tenses have their variation in the continuous form, right? So you have the simple present and you have the present continuous, right? I study and I am studying. Then you have the past, simple past, and the past continuous, right? I went and I was going, right? So it's simple and continuous, simple and continuous. Then that one is the present perfect, Karen. Okay, if you see have or has as the auxiliary, it's present perfect. But the present perfect simple is with the verb, main verb conjugated in simple, in past participle, right? For example, I have studied. But the past perfect, the present perfect continuous is the one that you said. I have been studying. All right, I have been studying. So it's one more time. Simple present, present continuous, simple past, past continuous, present perfect simple, present perfect continuous. Now this is the past perfect, and there is the past perfect continuous. Okay, we're going to see, or you're going to see that later on. This is the past perfect simple, and you're going to see later on the past perfect continuous that is going to be the same. Had plus been plus the verb in the past participle, right? So you can say, I had been waiting for you before, I had been waiting for you or for 5 hours before you arrived. Okay, so it's an action that's been happening, but that finished just before something else happened. That is that you arrived. Okay, and also with the future, Karen, that we didn't see that yet, or I don't know if you say it on your own, but you have the simple future, I will go, and the future continuous, I will be going, right? Will plus be and plus the verb with ing. All right, and even the be going to with continuous. I am going to be studying. I am going to be reading. I am going to be seeing. Okay, so absolutely all the tenses that we learned, Karen, they have the simple form and they have the continuous form. All right, and one more time to answer, the one you're telling me is the present perfect continuous. And this is the past perfect, and it has also the variation in the continuous form. All right,
Okay, teacher.
good. And again, of course, the job here and for you, if you are not going to be like into English in the way of teaching it, or if you want to be experts in grammar, you don't need to memorize perhaps the tenses or the names, only if you again want to be there, or you have a test and you have to do it. But if not, again, just try to understand that there is always going to be a simple form and a continuous form of every tense, in present, in past, and in future. All right, even with the modals, with can, with should, right? I should go or I should be going. I can go or I can be starting. Okay, so all of them have the two forms. And that's it. We're going to have a review. I'm not sure if it's in this course, but you have a review of all the tenses. If not, you try to do the review by yourselves, and you're going to ask me if you have any questions. It's always important to try to remember previous tenses. We only have 5 minutes, and that's going to be just to read examples. As you can see, these are the last 3 slides. So I'm showing you that you can use already with the past perfect. You can use yet with negative sentences, and you can use never with affirmative sentences that have negative meaning. All right, but let's actually see that in use by reading these examples. And you're going to help me out, please, in the first part. Micaela, let's read the first 2 examples, please, Micaela.
Okay, first, by 2010, I had already graduated from school. Second, when you arrived, the show had finished.
Good. Just one word, please, Micaela. How do you read this word one more time?
Graduate.
Good, but graduate is the base verb. Now, what is the past of graduate?
Graduated.
Graduated. Exactly. Anytime you have a T, then you have to make another T, very, very soft, but that is there. In this case, et, because the T is strong, right? Graduated. Correct. Just that one, Micaela. Thank you.
Okay.
Here, we are using the word already. And as you can see, already is used in affirmative ideas that are kind of surprising, right? It's like, wow, by 2010, I had already graduated from school. That's something that they were not expecting, something kind of surprising, or you're putting emphasis on that, wow, you had done that by this time. All right, those are the first 2, and here you can see the use of already in affirmative words. Here you're going to see yet, and this is going to be for you, please, Nazarena. Number 3 and 4, please, Nazarena.
Okay, teacher. Before she mentioned it, we hadn't realized that it was there yet. After they'd studied for months, the professor canceled the test.
Good. Just one more time, please, this word. How do you read it one more time, Nazarena?
Canceled?
Good, close. In this case, the stress is going to be in this part, canceled. Canceled the test. Let's repeat one more time, please.
Canceled the test.
The test. Okay, thank you. Here we are using yet, and we use yet for negative ideas, right? So we hadn't realized that it was there yet, okay? Or before you called me, I hadn't, right, even started with the assignment, okay? So yet, negative at the end, already affirmative in the middle of the auxiliary, or in between the auxiliary, sorry, and the verb in the participle form, all right? And finally, this is for you, please, Lucia, number 5 and number 6.
All right. By the time you entered the classroom, the practice had already begun. Before it happened, I had never thought of that idea.
Thank you very much. And here we're taking a look at the word never, right? And this is going to be, I think it was a little bit different, right? Entered. So you entered a place, and by the time it happened, the practice had already begun. So here we're using one more time already in affirmative ideas, and we use never in affirmative ideas, but with a negative meaning, right? Before it happened, I had never thought of that idea. Or you can say, I hadn't thought of that idea. It's the same, but never is stronger. Okay, just that. That's it with examples. If you have questions, again, let me know. This is just to reinforce what you know and to clarify some questions if you had some questions about the usage of already, yet, and never. Already and never are in the middle of the auxiliary and the verb. Yet is at the end. All right? And some questions, let me see the time. Good, yes, let's just answer this to finish. And I'm going to start with you. I already asked some questions, but Karen, the first one is for you. what had you done by the time you were 15 years old? Okay, something that you would like to mention.
I had started play tennis.
Good. You said you had started to play tennis, right? By the time you were 15 years old, right? It means before you were 15 years old. Good. So Karen, please ask the question number 2 to Micaela, please, Karen.
Okay, where have you traveled by 2050?
Great. 15, right? Good. Micaela, that's for you.
By 2015, I had traveled to Cochabamba.
Good, that is correct. And Micaela, please ask that last question to Nazarena. Okay, question number 3.
Okay, Nazarena, had you graduated from school or university before the pandemic began?
I graduated of the university after the pandemic began. I had graduated of the university before the pandemic began.
Okay, began. So is it, the first one was a little bit different. So would this be a yes or a no? What do you say, Nazarena? I'm a little bit confused. So would you say, yes, you had graduated from university before the pandemic began, or no, you hadn't graduated from university before the pandemic began? Which one is the correct one over there?
Oh, sorry. No, I hadn't graduated from the university before the pandemic began.
Very good. And only this word, please, Nazarena. How do you read this word one more time? Remember that when you have a T, it's a very strong consonant. You have to make the E more noticeable.
Graduated.
Graduated. Exactly. Right. And you can change the T to a Ch to make it even more American. So you can say graduated. All right. That's it. Thank you, Nazarena. And that's it on my side. All right. Well, of course, not all of you participated in this last part, but I think that all of you did in general. So I don't know if you have any questions. With these questions over here, just to finish, girls, and we're also good with the time, I'm just trying to show you what are the type of situations in which you use the past perfect. And one more time, as you can see, you always need another time reference, and that's not something that happens with the present perfect. It's impossible to ask these questions with the present perfect because it is going to be incorrect. If you say, what have you done by the time you were 15 years old? It's incorrect. If you say, where have you traveled by 2015? It's incorrect because it's a specific time reference in the past, and you don't use a specific time reference in the past with the present perfect, right? Only with the past perfect and only with the simple past. But one more time, the difference between the simple past and the past perfect is that the past perfect is always the first event in the past. It's always the earlier event, and it's always finished before the other event in the past has started. All right, if that is clear, then everything is going to be clear for you in this lesson. And you have, as always, some links that you can use to practice past perfect. Okay, and as you can see here, this is the past perfect simple. There is the past perfect continuous that you're going to learn later on, but it's very simple. And it's the same difference in the simple tense and as in the continuous tense. Let me know, please, if you have any questions before finishing now, girls. All right, so we're finishing here. Remember, please, that tomorrow we don't have the conversation. You can schedule your conversation, but remember that that conversation it's going to be, and it's going to take place on Wednesday, next week. All right, so next week we have 3 conversations in a row. We have a conversation on Tuesday, we have a conversation on Wednesday, and we have a conversation on Thursday also next week. All right, Let's fill out, please, the survey that you can see now. And that's it. I hope you have a good night, and then I'll see you on Friday, girls.
Okay, teacher, thank you. See you.
Sorry, teacher, why we don't
Bye bye.
Bye.
call
Yes, good
tomorrow?
night.
Or we
Tell
have,
me, Nazarena.
sorry, teacher, we have to make something for tomorrow. Or what happened? Sorry, maybe I was not in the call or in the.
Yes. No, don't worry. Yes, as I said, also there's an announcement in Classroom Nazarena. Tomorrow we don't have a conversation because, well, I have a presentation and I'm not going to be able to join and have the conversation with you. All right. So tomorrow we don't have the conversation, and we're replacing that conversation on Wednesday next week. Okay, so tomorrow you don't have to join, but you still have to schedule your time, because you're going to join at the time that you are choosing tomorrow, but instead of connecting tomorrow, you're going to connect and join on Wednesday next week.
Oh, okay,
All right.
okay. Thank you, teacher.
Sorry, Professor, I had another question. When we're going to finish the model?
Monday, November the 7th. All right, so next week, everything is going to be, well, actually, next week, we don't have a normal class on Wednesday where we're going to have the conversations, but we have to replace that class because it's supposed to be a holiday on Monday the 7th. Okay, so the course is going to finish on that date, Lucia and everybody. Okay, Monday, November the 7th.
So the final test is going to be for that date?
Correct. Actually, I'm going to give you the final test on Friday, and you're going to have the entire weekend and Monday to finish. And Monday is going to be the last day to complete the final exam, because we're going to finish everything before that date.
All right. Thank you,
All
Professor.
right. Good. You're
Good
welcome.
evening, girls.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Good night.